I returned yesterday and everything has blown up. It's been a week of crazy storms, tons of rain, and some of my plants have doubled in size or close to doubled. I already cleared the area with the scythe, but it's still really overgrown everywhere here. I trimmed off the chervil because they're all going to flower like this guy. And the nettle blew up. The carrots are finally sprouting. The potatoes, most of them sprouted out from underneath. The Jerusalem artichoke is growing rapidly. I'm gonna have some onion seeds soon. Yeah, everything is growing like crazy. And here, between the beets and the onions, and in these rows I planted purple carrots from Spain. Here I'm making slab tests. So I've got a 3-to-1 ratio here, 3-to-2 ratio here of sand from my foundation, and the same ratios with gravel. More rain on the way. Inside the greenhouse, done doing some rearranging and planting more seeds. So this is everything I've planted so far. Fennel, anise, gotta soak this, burdock, rosemary for like the 6th time, chamomile, kohlrabi, there's a pumpkin in these 3, amaranthus, salsa, chicory, and these 12 are all beetroot. And this here is hyssop. And here lastly I cover it all up so it can sprout with less watering. Note to self, white radishes for consumption do not grow well here. They're all full of worms. So here I am, another beautiful cloudy morning. I've got my garden growing full of weeds already. And the beans are growing upwards. And I'm returning back to digging. Yesterday I dug out all of this part to this layer. And today I'm doing this part. Little by little, it's getting there. About an hour I leveled that area out and I dug this whole part out. So the ground underneath here, yeah, I'm reaching like this might even be clay. It's either this I might actually be able to use to mix the cob. Though this might be silt also. I'll need a sample once I dig more, but there's a lot more rocks here. I'll be able to use these definitely. Here I've got all of the topsoil just from what I dug out back there in almost complete loop of poor soil, which will act as the driveway or the sidewalk around this wild garden. And in this pocket I have seeds from Spain. I have this fluffy tall grass, cypress, thyme, rosemary, and juniper, all mixed in a bag. So I'm gonna ruffle this ground up with a rake or with whatever I can and toss it around and wait for rain to come and see what sprouts here. Yesterday when I made space in the greenhouse, this is where I brought all of the soil blocks that didn't sprout yet, and I just put them in a line, and we'll see if there's anything left in them. It's up to nature now. Oh, it's a perfect day to be running back and forth to get tools. I made a semi-yin-yang pathway through the center of this, and I want to make a little ditch in between both soil types so that water has somewhere to sink in. These are the seeds I have from Spain. It's the juniper, rosemary, thyme, and fluffy grass mixture. Some of it I'm going to apply right away as I'm forming this. Just see what it'll do. So here, I've formed this other side quite a bit too. I've made pockets so that as much water could stay on here as possible. It'd be cool if I could vegetate this whole yin and yang. I started a work of art. It's kind of like a yin-yang, though more organic. And this rain droplet. Here's the progress of life right now. In the kitchen, I realized that if I leave my greens that I get from my neighbor to soak in water, they dry out less quickly. Here's some example of things that I let dry out. And here are the flowers that look exactly like that. They've rejuvenated a lot of their life. And other than that, here's more chicken of the woods. I've been eating it every day. But as of maybe 2 weeks ago, I have my guitar here, so I've started practicing it. I try to play every day, but it turns out I play every other day or every 3 days, sometimes every day. It's on and off. Otherwise, here's what the pathway looks like. It's so interesting how the microclimate changes from here to just the other side of these pines. And it's just a sea of color. I found a quail's nest earlier also, and I found some quail eggs, which I'm going to try. I've been cutting grass like crazy since I returned on Friday. Every area, either just to try to kill as many of these hawkweeds, or just to level this area so that I can walk all over it. So I'm starting to see how big a property 2.5 hectares is. Just thank God that all my land doesn't grow insane like a jungle, so there's less work. And this grass pile will be my home. Yes, it's so crazy to think that the floor will be a bit higher, maybe up to here. But here I'm almost the way there. I think, I still haven't measured it yet, but I think this is about 1.20 meters. And so I think I've got maybe 3 days of work left if I work an hour in the morning, as I've been doing every morning since Saturday. One thing though, I don't know where to put this sand. I'm still waiting for my soil test, clay soil blocks to dry. Actually, they might be dry. And I don't know if this is usable for building the cob walls. An update on the fruit trees. The plums that I planted earliest in the season, the mulch is getting overgrown, but this little tree is doing fine. Unfortunately, it'll be competing with this oak. And I had found this plum also. It was right there and I didn't see it. All of the plum trees that I planted are doing fine. They were especially big. However, the cherry trees, most of them look like this. They're struggling. Here's the other one. Half of it dried out, and it's been getting enough water, so maybe it's just shell shocked from the transplant. However, the cherry trees that I planted in these semi-shaded areas are doing a little bit better. This small one is doing just fine, however, here. And right about now-ish, I should be making some supports for these beans. They want to grow up. This morning, Rigodas and I woke up early to go hunting for chicken of the woods. We sold 10 kilograms to our first client, a restaurant or a farmer circle group in Ukmergė. So, and my friend Karolis came to stay. So the first half of the day was gone doing that, and then it was too hot to work. Now it's around 7:30, maybe an 8, and it's about perfect time to get back to work digging the foundation. First, yesterday I picked up my neighbor's getting rid of sheep wool, and it's a little dirty. It's not really, I don't think it's too good for insulation, so I'm gonna use it as mulch because she said that it works for that. So I give everything a very good water here. It's been a couple days without rain. The calendula is finally flowering, and I want to test the pH strip that I stuck in here. Maybe I left it in too long. So here the soil is about 6.75, between that and 7, so that's pretty ideal for here. Good to know. Here the pH seems to be right around 6 on the acidic side. Here it seems to be around 6.75. Here in the greenhouse it's around 6, maybe even 5.75, so it's really acidic here. Here on the other side it seems even slightly more acidic than the previous one. The left side is more acidic. Here in this greenhouse mount it's around 5.5. Here by the apple tree, it looks like around 6.25. Here's some compost I dug up from the Castle Hill, and its pH is between 6 and 6.5. As for water, straight from the well, it's very alkaline, which is probably a good thing to help balance out the acidity. I did some replanting today, or succession planting. I replanted the rue in the greenhouse, and here got 5 black cumin, 15 heirloom, these are golden beets, and 15 beetroot choja, 4 Decasnea fargesii, it might be too late for them. Here's also one more black cumin, and then 10 Swede invitation. This is my jungle. It rained yesterday during the daytime. Here my carrots are going to seed. I'm going to see if I can preserve them so they don't cross-pollinate. So I've got some chervil here and in other places, and I'm trying to take the flowers out so that they don't cross-pollinate. My potatoes are all exploding. This is getting a lot to cut with the scythe. Somehow a cannabis ended up in there. I have no idea how I got there. Inside the greenhouse, as of a day and a half ago, the Kohlrabi, almost everything here sprouted. The Amaranthus is out, the Chicory is out, and let's see, all of the Beets sprouted. None of the Fennel, but the Chamomile has. Yeah, still waiting on these guys. In here, my neighbor gave a lot of her wool. Still got more to pick up, but she said you can use it as mulch. So now I'm using it around the fruit trees to smother out the other weeds. And here's the construction. This is about the right depth, and what's interesting is that they've reached gravel. This is prime stuff for cropping. Here I'm getting around to making the irrigation using the inner tubes. Now that it's too hot to work under the sun, searching for more tasks to do in the shade. So here I've got my extension. Hopefully this will suffice. Now to install it back in the cold frame. Here's my snaking irrigation system. There's 3.5 inner tubes connected. Now to test this baby out. Okay. It's going, but tubes need to be opened. Okay, it runs up until this corner. So yeah, anywhere where there's a sharp bend, it gets stuck. I have irrigation! Here's today's progress. Found this big old rock here. Here I just planted this whole entire area. There's carrots here, there's cabbage here, as well as over in that patch. There's Scarlet Emperor right around here, as well as in that corner. There's a Eschzoltzia Californica, Chopsuey green on this side, Amaranthus all around here. There's Swede in each of these holes. There's miner's lettuce in this patch here, as well as right here. There's some summer savory in this patch here, Mibuna Oriental here, and somewhere else, and Helichrysum Italicum here, which decides to sprout. Lastly, there's 4 Nasturtiums popped in random places along the far edge. So here I've been weeding this area, and ever since I started living here and I discovered there's a fruit tree growing here, I've been adding things. Today I had some Thai basil, so I stuck it in many of the places. Otherwise, my summer savory is still tiny, and my chive is still alive. Here's an update on the garden. First of all, out of the trees, it looks like there's one willow that's got roots out. And from the fruit trees, yeah, a few of them still have their leaves. These two and that one. And mosquitoes are biting. There's no aphids on any of the brassicas out here, but on the brassicas in the greenhouse, they're taking over. And the Brussels sprouts, this one's growing amazingly. Here, the calendula is gonna flower soon. The collard is growing well. And then the potatoes are shading out the tomatoes. Here the beets are finally starting to take off, as well as the onions. Saturday, June 20th. So, back to work. I'm so close to being done here. I just need to level this last part out. So, my friend Karolis left today. And before he left, he helped me put in the second pole, and we fastened them into the ground. So, got the start of a structure. So, this is the already pretty worn scythe, which I need to find a better house for. Otherwise, I've been using it intensely for 2 months, 1 month and a half or so. And I'm learning a lot more about how to sharpen it with this. I do a lot of knife sharpening since I bought a razor blade. So I'm experimenting. This is terrible with one hand, but using, this is failure. Here, since it's not so hot under the sun, I'm getting back to work. I'm gonna gather all this grass and use it to mulch this area and try to figure out some future garden bed sites for guilds. Here's what happens if you suffocate a pine tree by covering it with leaves or with mulch, as I have here. Oh no, this is just an anthill. But this guy, oh, whew, you're black already. So I thought I was gonna have a cool working period, but the sun came back out. It's too hot to work out here again. Here's what I got done. I de-weeded this area and I mulched it back up. So I'd like to get some more straw from somewhere around here and start making little islands of mulch. Either that or I can get some wool from my neighbor to cover here. There's a crazy storm coming. Looks like it's gonna rain. So I've got some mustard seeds and some thyme. I'm gonna sprinkle it all over here where I disturbed it earlier. The storm is coming. It's raining as it tends to do lately. Here I collected some sunchoke stems or poles. I'm hoping I can make ladybug homes out of them. I'll see if they're hollow. Otherwise, I'll have to find different use for them. So it seems I stuck my camera off in a box somewhere, so I haven't been updating because I couldn't find the camera. But today is Monday, June 22nd, and I'm getting a little crazy here from all the flies. So I'm dressed to cover as much skin as possible. And I'm trying to wrap things up because I know I won't be coming back here for at least a week. As I'm going to the coast, I need to escape here. So I'm packing up a little bit, and I want to leave the plants off in a state where they can just grow while I'm gone. So I need to make some trellises. I need to pack up the rest of this before it goes bad. I've been eating, yesterday I tried eating some of this chicken of the woods, which dried out over the last week. We harvested too much of it, and I've been eating so much of it that I'm overeating it. I need a change, so I'm trying to eat it less often. Unfortunately, it means more of it's going to waste. This is what Karolis built in his few days here. He used up I don't know what short-living tree this is that grows in the swamp. And this place is a complete mess. Because I realize I'm burning out a bit, I'm just less interested in cleaning up. And even just, I'm sick. I didn't feel like meditating yesterday, which I've been doing for a month and a half straight. So I need change. On the bright side, there is finally tons of wild strawberries just right in front of me everywhere I go. That's what made me fall in love with this place originally, is the wild strawberries were still growing late into the season, way past they were supposed to be done. Here's more strawberries. And in the garden, before I leave, I'm getting attacked by aphids. They're these icky things growing on all of the brassicaceae plants in my greenhouse. I'm pretty sure they're the culprits why this kale is been destroyed. So I want to clean this up before I go and stick some other things in the ground here. On the bright side, I noticed one of my ginkgo trees sprouted. I worried that the seeds would dry out, and I'm pretty sure this is a sweet chestnut. This looks very sweet chestnutty to me. So if these can survive into older plants, I will be very excited to see what happens. And here I'm noticing just now a nasturtium that popped up without me planting it. So this whole garden needs to change to something useful, as the mustard has been not tasty for a while and not everything will go to seed. Okay, I just committed genocide on almost all of these mustard plants, and you can see how some of them were just harvesting aphids like mad. So I'm gonna toss these far away from anywhere near this garden. I learned some valuable things with this garden. It was my first time growing celery. I got a good fat stalk out of it, and a lot of it's going to seed. And I learned with mustard how densely packed it can grow, and it's really tasty in the beginning, and as it grows older the leaves lose their flavor. The flowers taste good, but there are so few of them, it's a hassle to pick them. And eventually it started with the radish going to flower. The aphids came and they wreaked havoc, which is interesting because on this side the radishes were growing same as the other side, except that there's so far no aphids. I wonder if it's because of the polyculture. I have several apples here. I have onions here. Some broccoli or something else in the Brassicaceae family, and clover, just as there is on the other side. So maybe these plants are helping repel the aphids that came here. Regardless, going forward, I planted some tender perennial, some purple Phileas pepper, and I transplanted the seed pods for Decasnea fargesii. So there's 4 of both of them, and I'll see if they pop up. And I chopped up all of this clover. I'm going to let the rest of it grow as it wants to. I wonder how the chop and drop will go with it, because I imagine now it's going to release a lot of the nitrogen that it's stored for those leaves for whatever next is coming. Furthermore, I think it would be good to transplant these basils here as well. So I'm going to turn this bed more into a polyculture like that one. Transplanted the 4 basils, and I also transplanted some cilantro in some random places. There's one in there, and somewhere one in here. And the rest I transplanted in the newly area. So the cilantro is still tiny, so we'll see if it likes it better outside here because it's growing very slowly in the greenhouse. And I imagine a lot more things will be growing here when I return. I'm really surprised these potatoes, especially these in the back, they had a thick-ass piece of sod to dig through to go through and rise up, and they're growing outrageously. This was such an easy potato bed. So the biggest hassle this week by far was the mosquitoes. In fact, I try to avoid the kitchen area now because it's a guaranteed place to get attacked by 2 or 3 mosquitoes at a time, which makes it hard to do cooking. I almost gave up trying to cook yesterday because I was so frustrated. So the only solution I can think of so far with what I have is to dress up. But when it's hot outside, like I'm sweating in my pants. It's it's not comfortable. And I haven't had it this bad in all of my time here on the land. It's a very good season for growing, but every plus has its minus. I'm all packed up and I'm ready to go to Vilnius. And so this is the state I'm leaving my territory in. I just threw in some trellises for the beans to grow on. And this morning I leveled this here, so this is the right depth. I was too frustrated to finish it. So I've got another hour and a half's worth of digging for this part of the project to be done. And then I gotta figure out how to get these smaller stones in there, followed by bigger and bigger stones. Otherwise, I'm looking forward to chock-fulls of wild strawberries when I return. They are going right into their peak now, and I imagine they should be going on for months more. Oh, look at this patch. And here's the raspberry patch. There's going to be lots and lots of raspberries here. And here's how these peas or beans are growing in the shade. Then here are the potato plants that Rigo just gave me. These are special potatoes that I just threw under the straw. And here are the second pair. And here's the greenhouse mound. My squash are growing fine. I transplanted this lemon catnip, so hopefully seeds will go through the drainage. My strawberry isn't giving me strawberries, but my wild strawberries are giving many. Peas here aren't growing so well. Probably not enough sun. It's interesting to see how all the potatoes I forgot I didn't find from last year are sprouting. This corn is growing really fast. Hopefully soon these beans will be able to latch onto the corn. And the melon here, cucumber, ong choy, and this ong choy is really taking off. So yeah, I'm gonna hitchhike back. Have a goodbye for here.